Welcome to the Art of Likability, where you learn the secrets to becoming more likable in all areas of your life. Increasing your likability improves your relationships, and improved relationships increases your success in all areas of your life. Let's jump in with your host, Arel Moody.
What's going on, everybody? Arel Moody here, host of the Art of Likability. So excited. This is a super special... I can't tell you how excited I am about this. We have someone, we're going to do an interview today. Today's going to be a little bit different, where we're going to jump into the mind of the man that changed my life in my professional existence. Now, remember, you're listening to the Art of Likability. So this is going to teach you how to build your likability skills. Likability builds deeper relationships build success. And if you don't want success and deeper relationships and happiness, you are listening to the wrong podcast. And we're going to talk to a man that has built a relationship with so many people, with myself, and has made so much success for himself and others and made so many people happy. It's just, he is literally, when I speak across the country, I always talk about my mentor. This is the man that I talk about. If you've ever heard my speaking engagement, you're about to hear directly from the person I reference in every single one of my presentations. The man's name is Angelo Mastrangelo. He has an amazing background. He used to own Adirondack, which is a private label beveraging company. They have sodas and seltzers and all that kind of amazing stuff. Multi-million-dollar enterprise. Sold that company as a professor of entrepreneurship at Binghamton University. Ranked one of the top professors in the country on entrepreneurship. He owns an executive MBA from a little institution called Harvard, and a doctorate of organizational science and leadership, organizational studies, I'm sure I get it right, a doctorate, PhD in organizational studies from SUNY Albany. He is not only someone who was learned in book studies, but someone who most importantly built himself up from the ground. He grew up as not a privileged individual, had a very tough childhood, and overcame those struggles to build his life into something that is just truly incredible. And what I love about Ange more than I could ever thank him, and I try to thank him as much as I can, but I can never thank him for believing in me when there was no good reason to believe in me, for showing me things that for no good reason he should, except that he cares. He cares about seeing other people succeed. Anyone's had a conversation with him knows that he'll just share everything that he needs to see you succeed. And he's been a true blessing and someone that's changed my life professionally and as a man, seeing him deal with his sons, his daughter, his amazing wife, and he's a great human being. He has an amazing foundation where he gives people a second chance in getting their education.
Yeah. We pay them based on their grades.
Yeah, so
the better they do, the more they get.
And it's beautiful. There's a give back feature to what he does. He's very actively involved in helping people from disadvantaged backgrounds in various projects. And he's soon to author a book, which I'm very excited about. So with that said, let's give a big welcome. He may not hear you, but he'll feel you. So just please clap if you're listening. For my mentor, I never call him doctor, but since this is an interview, I'll say Dr. Angelo Mastrangelo. Yeah. What's up, Ange?
Well, nothing much, but hi, and great to be on your podcast and talking to all of your listeners.
Absolutely. It's cool because...
about likability, one of my favorite subjects.
Yeah, and I just taught Ange how to text, which makes me very excited. He's been around for a long time. We come from different generations, if you're wondering. He's a little bit older than me, so to teach him how to text and to have him on a podcast, this is exciting stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to talk about, a little bit about your story as we jump into the idea of likability and how you use likability to build your profession, to build your career, why people chose to do business with you, how you grew your business. But I was hoping you could give everyone a little bit of a background of your professional career. How did you start? How did you eventually come to owning the business that you owned?
Wow. It started back when I was a paper boy. You talk about likability and I had customers and I had to go sell customers and get new accounts. And I remember they came out with the Sunday paper. We never had a Sunday paper.
Okay.
And they had a contest. And I got 60 new customers in a month.
Wow.
And so I won a trip to New York City. I actually won 3 of them all together.
Nice.
And I learned, I learned something very valuable, which was how to sell.
Mm.
And it really has a lot to do with whether people like you or not. Because first, you sell yourself first.
Right.
And then you sell your service or your product. So I ended up, went to work as a milkman, going up and down stairs carrying milk bottles.
Old school right here. Yeah.
And then I was a Canada Dry salesman.
Okay, Canada Dry.
Yeah. And I was telling you earlier, how did I sell a lot? How to get people to like me? And I wish I could say it was because I had this great personality or I was a great talker, but it was because of customer service, because I worked my butt off for them. And that was another way of showing them I cared. You told me, I saw your videos and we talked and you said you learned so much when you started listening to other people rather than telling them about you. And if you want people to care about you or like you, there's three things. You know how they say, like real estate, there's three things: location, location, location.
Yeah.
Listen.
Right. And that's how you that was one of the core principles of your business. I remember you sent me the the vision and the mission statement of your business, and you said three things. Listen, and listen.
Right. People like people that listen to them. You know why? Because it says you care about them.
Right.
So people like people who care about them. But I think that's not enough, by the way. That's a great start, but it's not enough. They want to know that you know what you're talking about.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So it's hard to care about people or to like people that don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
Now, I've seen studies that, 90% of what you take away from a presentation is the delivery.
Right.
And only 10 is the content.
Right.
But you know what? That's not true long term. Because you got my 90% because you're a good talker.
Yeah.
But when I go home and I start thinking about what you said, and if I try it doesn't work, it goes the other way.
Right.
So you have to start off, you have to know what you're talking about.
Right.
The next thing is that I got to trust you. Because if I don't trust you, why would I care if you know what you're talking about? All right. And then trust is honesty and sincerity. But another part of it that people don't talk about much is reliability. If I can't depend on you to be at dinner at a certain time,
guilty.
I just gave him a little shot. You can't depend on somebody, that's trust too. And then the next piece is, do you care about me?
That's a good point.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then you can't care about me if you won't share with me.
Right.
So you have to share with me credit, rewards. And then the final piece is your morals. And, I'm not going to get in, we're not talking about specific religions or any that kind of thing, okay? But will you treat others the way you'd like to be treated, regardless of their position? That's the piece. Regardless of their position. And how about this? Will you honor each person's dignity and pride, regardless of their position?
Right. So not just being nice to the CEO, but being nice to everyone that you meet.
See, in my lifetime, I bumped into people that were wonderful listeners, but they were selective listeners.
Interesting.
Okay?
Yeah.
For example, when I'm selling, I'm the greatest listener in the world because I need to hear what my customer is saying, the feedback, in order to overcome their objections. Okay? But now when I come home, my wife says to me, "You're not listening to me." Okay? And she's right. Because my mind is on the next customer I'm trying to sell.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So, and I know people that listen really well to people they think are important, but not to other people.
Right.
So do I listen to everybody? And there's a thing called listening and there's a thing called active listening. Do I just shut up when you're talking, or do I listen on a mission to try to understand what it is you're trying to tell me? That's completely different.
Listen on a mission. I love that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that, man.
No, I never did.
I don't think you ever. I think that was No, seriously. Listen on a mission. Yeah, no, it's beautiful.
Because the goal of listening should be to completely understand, not to agree with the other person. That's the other point.
Yeah.
Not to agree with the other person, but to completely understand where they're coming from. A big deal.
So you worked at Canada Dry doing sales. You started applying some of these things. You started selling, obviously, very well. I know that. That's one of the things that you have taught me is the importance of, being able to sell and how that can change your business. So you started selling. You did decently at it. Good. What was your career like?
The other thing that we were talking about earlier, and we never got into it completely, but
yeah,
salesmanship has a dirty. It's like almost like a dirty word. Because we think of that used car
salesman, right?
So but salesmanship or salespersonship, okay,
sure,
is the art of persuasion.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big difference. If you want to be a successful CEO, an entrepreneur, you have to be a salesperson.
Mm.
You have to sell your ideas, your purpose,
right.
What you're trying to lead. And I found that all the successful people that come and speak in my class or that I read about,
mm-hmm.
successful entrepreneurs, they were all good salespeople.
Right.
It's getting people to want to buy whatever you're selling or to agree with you, whatever it is. So I found out that I was really a good salesperson, but that's not what I wanted to do in life. I wanted to be a lawyer or a football coach.
Mm-hmm. NBA, basketball. Let's talk about that.
Actually, I wanted to be an athlete, but I wasn't good enough. So then I settled for being a coach or being a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
I never got to do either one of them.
Mm.
But I went to work to do something I was good at, which was selling.
Right.
And so I was so good at it that they offered me a promotion and they made me a supervisor, which was the worst thing I ever did in my life.
Okay. Tell me why.
Okay. Because all of a sudden I was no longer the star.
Mm-hmm.
See, I used to be the star. I sold a lot of stuff. The more I sold, the more money I made. The happier everybody was.
Yeah.
I actually had 4 brothers. They were all better than me at something. They're all smarter, better musicians, whatever.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even the best person out of 5 in my family.
Yeah.
But I found something I was really good at and better than most people.
Very
I was
important.
a really good salesperson, and I was in my self-esteem. Nothing breeds success like success.
Right.
So now all of a sudden I'm a supervisor, and now I got to be the coach. Now I have to let the other person be the star, and I have to teach them, and I have to let them win. And wow, that just was no fun. Okay. And then also there was another thing that was wrong with it.
Point honesty, yeah.
The other thing that was really wrong with it, the supervisor is terrible because it's in between management and you're the layer in between management and the people. So the people would complain to me about management and the management would complain to me about the people.
Wow.
And
That's often overlooked. Yeah.
I didn't have the authority to do anything.
Huh.
See, before I took that job, I talked to my father-in-law. I said, they want to make me a supervisor. I don't even know what it is. And he says, Lance, take the job so you won't work for a jerk. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, if you get to be the boss, you get the call. You get to call the shots.
Yeah.
If you stay where you are, the person above you calls the shots and you get to end up working for jerks.
Yeah.
The higher you get to the top, the closer you get to having the final say.
Yeah.
So the supervisor's job wasn't high enough to have enough authority.
Yeah.
But then I got promoted to sales manager. And then because the company was failing and they had run out of people to make the general manager, they offered me the job as general manager.
Okay.
And I ended up the general manager.
Yeah.
And I was given 6 months to turn the place around or they were going to shut it down.
Wow.
And fortunately, we did it. And I led 4 turnarounds. Interesting, the turnarounds we led by increasing the sales, not by cutting back. Just talking about
like cut. Right.
You can only cut so much. Every turnaround we made successful was by increasing the sales, by increasing entrepreneurship, if you will, entrepreneurial, by generating new business.
Yeah.
Right. So everything was going great. And the guy sold the company to ITT, the 11th largest company in the world, and they traded me like a baseball player. And I ended up working for ITT for 3 years. They decided they wanted to sell the company at the end of 2 years, and we were able to float an IDA bond, which is a double tax-free bond, so the purchaser doesn't pay any taxes. And so the interest rate is half as much as it would normally be. And my wife and I bought the company, which was really good, but that was the good news. The bad news was that the mortgage payment was $83,000 a month. My wife had to be responsible for half of the debt for the rest of her life, even if I divorced her.
Yeah.
And it was losing $160,000 a month.
This was $83,000 a month in what time frame?
1980.
In the 80s. So it's significantly more today if we're talking real dollars.
Inflation adjusted, it'd be a lot more. But it was $83,000 a month.
Sure.
And so fortunately, we turned it around and eventually sold it. And then I went to school.
Yeah.
But I went to school to find out what I did. That was the best part.
It's so funny. So you were telling me that, you did the executive MBA at Harvard. And one of the cool things about it was all of the things you were learning, you were like, that's what we did. So that's good, right?
The interesting thing is when I went to school, I didn't like school. It was really boring. I hated it. Lucky to get out. And I did go to school nights at a community college. And I took accounting 1 and accounting 2.
Right.
And I thought I wanted to be an accountant. And after 1 week, I knew that I didn't want to be an accountant. But it was the best thing I ever did for my business career because it taught me things like break even and how to do a profit and loss statement and contribution and all that kind of stuff. And it was fantastic. But that was it. That's all I was armed with throughout my business career. So after about 7 or 8 years of owning the company, I went to this executive MBA program, the owner-president management program at Harvard, for owners or presidents of companies between $2 million and $200 million a year. And it was exactly like their MBA program, but they started us at a higher level because of our experience. It was 3 weeks a year for 3 years. And the beauty of that was for the first time in my life, I saw the utility of education. You know what I mean by that?
Tell me.
Is when we're in high school, we're in school and we're taking subjects like algebra. You say, now, what am I going to ever do with this thing? Geometry is even better. What do you do with geometry? You know? And you don't understand the utility. They're making me take this stupid thing to make some person happy, and it's not going to help me any way in my life. Okay? But all of a sudden, I'm taking marketing, I'm taking strategic management, I'm taking finance, I'm taking psychology, I'm taking economics, and every one of these things related to my company and to what we were trying to do. And it sharpened my focus.
Right.
And all of a sudden, education was fun because of the utility.
Oh, so I'm learning, I can use this, my life has a direct benefit, I want to learn more.
And you know what? You don't learn anything till you apply something.
Yeah.
And they said to us that actually, you may not have learned anything from the session.
Yeah.
And you'd learned it in between when you went home and practiced whatever you were going to do. And a lot of times it wouldn't even sink in until you come back the next year, and it was so true.
So fascinating.
And we had these real life cases stuff, and that was that helped me. That sharpened my focus. That was the best part of it. It also did something else for me too. Not having a formal education. By the way, I read a lot of books about leadership, and I had great mentors, and I observed, and I learned an awful lot on the street. Yeah. And we had people that would come in, from Albany University, right? I was working with the professors, and they had all these, the students would have all these sophisticated models, and they would say, we weren't sophisticated. And I didn't know what we were doing was right or wrong. All I knew is we were winning.
Sure.
Okay? But when I went to school, it taught me that what we were doing was right. And that was very important because, it gave me the assurance that we were on the right path. It also showed me things that we shouldn't be doing, So now I knew if we stopped something, why to stop it and why we were doing it. But it was a wonderful experience.
So, let's talk about some of the things that you've picked up from, the street smart skills, the, growing the salesmanship, all the way up into, the people side, because we were having a conversation earlier today about people and how to get the best out of them. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what things that you picked up specifically in likability. And you told me one story about one of your clients that I thought was really interesting about the coffee. So I'd love to hear you just kind of talk about some things that you think changed the game mostly for you and what you made sure to try to replicate as much as possible.
We were talking about earlier in the my Canada dry route, and the cases of soda weighed 55 pounds each.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they were all stored in the back room, and you had to bring them out and put them up on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And the storekeepers help would do that, but oftentimes you'd get there and the shelves would be empty because they didn't have the people. And so I just decided that I would, put the soda up for the storekeepers. And the guy before me was really, I hate to say it, but he was lazy.
The salesman who used to have your route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just got out there and I just started putting the soda up in this one store, Ike's IGA in Cortland, New York, and great guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I very seldom saw Ike. I'd just go at the end of my work and I'd ask him for the order.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd go and I'd start putting the soda up, and it started off at 20 cases a week, got up to 50, got up to 60, got up to close to 100 cases a week.
Mm-hmm.
And, Ike said to me, he'd say, hey, let's go have a cup of coffee. Now, I wanted a cup of coffee like I wanted a hole in the head because I had 50 more stops to make, and I used to run from my car to the store.
Yeah.
But Ike wanted a cup of coffee with me. And we'd sit down and we'd talk, and not because I had a great personality. Ike would say to me, I really like you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not afraid of getting your hands dirty.
Mm-hmm.
You come in here and you bust your chops for me. I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came in, I had a special, or I wanted to try something. We had a competitor come in, and they were 5 for $1 on their 28-ounce bottles or 32-ounce bottles, and we were 2 for $39. Okay, which one is cheaper?
2 for $39. You get 4 for $80. Same price, almost. A little cheaper, like a cent cheaper.
2 for $39 is cheaper.
You get 40 cents.
5 for $98.
Yeah, a little cheaper.
They were just kicking our butts because everybody thought 5 for $1 was a great deal. So I said to my boss, I said, you know what? Can we try it? Can we go 5 for $98? He said, no, do 5 for $97 because it's a penny cheaper.
Okay.
And he said that. I said, okay, I'll see. I'll test it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Ike. And I said, Ike, I want to test something. I want to try this multiple pricing, 5 for $97. Put up a sign, now only 5 for $97, right? No sale, no nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ike, can I put up a sale of 200 cases?
Mm-hmm.
No, this is the regular price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Edge, go ahead, because Ike liked me because he trusted me because I busted his chops.
Mm-hmm.
Or I bust my chops for him.
Mm-hmm.
I come back the next week, all 200 cases were gone.
Huh.
All right, so Ike would do anything... as long as I was being honest with him and whatever.
Right.
And that was because of my working for him and being honest with him.
And the thing that's so important about that is that, one, you didn't do what you just were expected to do. You could have came in, took the order, left. But you were saying to yourself, hey, I want to put the soda on the shelves. I want to, go that extra mile. And they see that. And you never had to actually say, hey, Ike, I'm going to go put the soda on the shelves now. Like, you don't have to do that. You let your actions speak, and people pick up on that extra work.
Actually, if you do that, it takes away from it.
Exactly. Because if I'm going, hey, Ike, look at me working hard, I'm putting this extra stuff for you, then it takes away the whole point of you doing that extra work. Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
But by just doing it, people will notice that extra work.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And in addition to that, you always had the coffee, which I thought that was important. That stood out to me the most when I heard you tell me that, because of course you had to run. Of course you had to go to the next client, but someone wanted to spend a moment with you. So you decided to say,
he liked me.
How can I say no? I have to spend this time.
It's what you're talking about.
He liked you.
He liked me. Now, for whatever the reasons were, he liked me. And he liked me enough that he wanted to have a cup of coffee. So
who you'd say no?
If I was going to be selfish, say no, I don't have the time.
Yeah, may not like you as much. Maybe.
I took the time, had coffee with him.
I think that's great, man. So going more than you're supposed to, and letting your actions speak for it. without having, because I mean, whenever you see someone, I believe, and in my experiences, when I've seen people go the extra mile, but go out of their way to make people know that they're going the extra mile, it completely takes away from what you're trying to accomplish. Do it, let people find out. It's more impressive that way. And when someone wants to spend time with you, that's one of the things that is a gift or a curse or however you want to put it. When I speak, I don't leave until everyone's question is answered. I'll stick around after a conference. A lot of people say, hey, you're the only keynote speaker that actually stuck around, even hours sometimes. And for me, and I learned this from you, watching you, when we would have our classes or, the student group I was a part of when I was in college, I would see you after sessions talking to people until, they left. And I was just like, well, look, if that's what Ange does, I want to replicate and do the same. And because I take that extra time, I've noticed deeper relationships with people. Clients go from being a client, yes, but also become family to me. I check in on them. I find out, hey, how's that knee? I know you got the surgery. And it's because I genuinely care. But the only reason why I know this is because I spent the time to get to know them. So, Ange, tell me a little bit about when you started wanting to increase sales. I know, one of the things you said to us was, you never cut, your goal was never to cut costs. You never was to say, hey, let's fire people or let's cut expenses to get back into it. From a sales perspective, if you're looking to increase sales and that's something that's important to you, what are some of the things that you did with the leniency towards likability that helped you, increase sales?
You just said it. You just said, one of the things you said was you said you get to know the people and they like you for that. And you get to know about their kids, their family, or whatever's going on. And I'll never forget this, okay? I had the country run. On Friday, I had the country run.
What's that?
It was out in the country stores, It was. I drove out and there was, there were suburban stores rather than the urban stores.
Okay.
And on Thursdays, I had the urban stores, the Central City, downtown, right? And so the people downtown would be immigrants. They'd be, bar owners.
Yeah.
They'd be, pretty rugged individuals. They'd yell at you. They'd curse at you. They'd call you names.
Yeah.
And if you were intimidated, they wouldn't buy from you. So, and I learned that, I could yell back at them. I could call them names and they would laugh and they would buy from me. And I'd actually sell people that didn't even understand English and I couldn't speak their language. And we figured it out. All right. Because the number one rule in selling or making a presentation is know your customer.
Right. All
right. So I knew them and I knew how to treat them. And I remember I had not that run, but another run. I had this a storekeeper in the large store, and God, the guy was just so hard to talk to find time to talk to him because he's always be busy and everything else. You have to wait around and whatever, and you really had to pound him. You had a hard sell. You had to come back and you had to go hard on it.
Yeah,
and he loved it.
Okay.
And one day he says to me, what I like about you, Ange? You're so soft sell. And I go, God, if I jumped on his head, it wouldn't have been overdoing it. And he loved it. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was the same thing on the urban or the Central City run. Okay. The next day I had the country run, the farmers, if you will. They're out in suburbia, they're out in the farmland and whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember I had this one storekeeper. It was a supermarket, and I could never sell the guy. I mean, nothing special.
Yeah.
And so one day my boss came out with me, and he knew the guy, and he had to run before me. And so he starts off, hey, Charlie, how's your daughter doing in school? Is she still playing soccer? Hey, you been fishing lately?
Yeah.
Oh, they talked for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So when we got all done, he says, hey, Jim, what do you have on special today? And Jim sold them.
Right.
And I learned the lesson. I learned that for that customer in that run, I had to treat these customers completely different than the city run. I had to back off. I had to ask them questions. I had to ask them how their family was doing. And then they would buy from me. Good salespeople change their presentation based on their audience, but they never change the promotion itself. Now, a lot of salespeople will make different deals to different people, and that catches up with them. I never changed the deal. I just changed the way I presented it. And that, in your business, right? Knowing the audience you're speaking to is critical. In salesmanship, know your customers. Know your customers.
Right.
The guy down in Waverly, New York, in the farm country.
Yeah.
If I had pushed him at all, I never would sell him. Norman, the Redskin in Binghamton, New York, who I'd jump on his head and come back and say, Norman, I got this deal. You got to take it. It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Oh, and you're the softest selling guy I ever met. You know your audience, and you have to know, how to present it to them. Don't change your pitch, but change the way you present it.
There's something I learned in sales that has been very helpful for me, which is the idea of, if you don't know the backstory, you can almost create a backstory. And they say that's like making your perfect client, if you will. So if you're looking at your perfect client from the city, for this particular client, I need to change my approach. I know their backstory. I know the aggressiveness that's here. Where somebody in the country, their backstory may be, I need you to care about my family. I need you to small talk me. You can't come in as aggressive. So building a kind of profile for the different people that you serve is a great way for you to learn how they like something. If you maybe came in and chit-chatted with some people on the tougher city route, they may have been like, you're wasting my time, get out of here. So that building that profile of what you think is a type and being able to serve it has helped you sell differently, but you didn't compromise what and how you sold. Is that right?
Right. Never.
Got it. So tell me.
Just just the way you presented it.
All right. So tell me this. Okay. You are caring about people. You're learning about, what's important to them. You're putting your sales presentations together so that you're reaching their different personality types, and you're selling a bunch, and you're building deep relationships. Tell me about something that you used to do that maybe would surprise you that other people just didn't do. Like, to you, thought it was so simple and so easy, but it would give you a leg up on your competition. Maybe they wouldn't take the time to do X, or you did Y, whatever it might be. Is there something from your experience that you saw that was something you did different, that was maybe accessible to everyone to do, but they chose not to, and that you use that in your favor?
It was be prepared and be natural. We were selling Procter & Gamble, and was extremely successful, still is.
Yeah.
But Procter & Gamble would have salesmen calling on the stores, and they'd have 3 different salesmen selling cake mixes from 3 different companies that they owned, all 3 of them.
Huh.
And they would compete against themselves, and we would laugh at these guys because they were like robots. And they would sit there and they would go through this canned presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd sit there and you go, good Lord, give me a break, will you? But they sold a lot of stuff. And we made fun of them, but they sold a lot of stuff.
Why is that?
Because they were just reading it. They really weren't relating to the customer, but they sold a lot of stuff.
Why do you think they still sold in that situation? Because
they had a prepared presentation that made sense. So when I started teaching people how to sell, is I learned that you needed to have a prepared presentation.
Interesting.
But it should never be canned. So what you do is you start off and you put the things in it that you believe in.
Right.
Your central focus, your theme is, what is your theme? Why is this good? It should be, why is this good for you? So it always starts off with, why is this good for you? And then you only put things in your presentation that you believe in.
Right.
And that you're excited about. All right. And now you cover off everything you wanted to cover.
Yeah.
But you prepared, but you put it in your own terms. And that's much more effective. And as you go along, you start off in the day, you start making your presentations. And I love it because what you find out is this works and that doesn't work.
Right.
And by the 5th or 6th or 7th call, you're a fine-tuned machine.
And that goes back to something that you said earlier, which, gosh, man, like hearing it now just resonates with me at a much deeper level. You know, the idea of likability is to increase the relationships, to increase everything. But if you're not good or if you're not prepared, all of the likability stuff doesn't matter, really.
It goes away.
If you're the most likable guy, but you don't know your stuff, you're not going to get as far as if the guy or woman who knows their stuff and is likable. I think that it's important for people to realize that likability is not a replacement for the basics. You know, one of the lessons you taught me back in the day was, you know, it was a sports analogy, but you're like, listen, you know, you dribble the ball, you pass the ball, you shoot the ball in basketball. Those are the basics. Those basics never change. The glitz and the glamour and all that stuff can come and go, but can you dribble? Can you pass? Can you shoot? And I think that if we're prepared, we'll never be in a place where if we're not likable, if we're having an off day, if we know what we're talking about, if we're the expert in it, that can never be taken away from you, even if you're having an off day. But then if you can couple likability on top of that, you put yourself in a great place.
Well, I had to take and flip and take the other side. And let's say when I bought my company, I did a lot of purchasing.
Yeah.
So then, who did I like? It was a really good question, okay?
Yeah.
And we had people that come in that you wouldn't mind having a drink with, but you never get anything done from their company or get you the right deal or get something on time, or their products were not good or their deliveries were terrible.
Right.
And it didn't matter if I liked that person or not. And I got to the point where I didn't even particularly want to have a drink with them because every time we bought something from them, it was a problem.
So
now, another guy came in.
Yeah.
This guy was really not a good salesperson. Sometimes he would tell me things about his company. I go, oh my God, you really shouldn't tell me that. Okay? I would never tell a customer what you told me.
Yeah.
But his name was Ben, and I mean, what a guy. What a guy. Whatever we needed, Ben did it. I mean, if I ever had a problem, I needed something, I don't care what it was. Okay? I wanted to see if I could go to the Super Bowl in San Francisco when the Giants finally got into the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And, you couldn't get a ticket. All right? So we never asked for anything. I was going to pay for it.
Yeah.
I called Ben up. Ben said, yeah, call me back in a half an hour. I had 4 tickets. I never gave Ben a problem that he couldn't solve. I mean, and most of them were, get this load in tomorrow because we're short or whatever. And Ben wasn't, if you say, a good salesperson.
Yeah.
Okay? Per se. But I really like Ben. I still like Ben.
Right.
Okay.
So we go the extra mile to solve problems.
Because Ben was good at what he did.
Yeah.
And he was honest and he was trustworthy. But I think, you're talking about what made you successful. I was a really good salesperson, but I never became, a great salesperson until I was in charge of the company. Because now I could design the marketing program. See, the marketing people make the sales program. The salespeople sell it.
Yeah.
Right? Salespeople are not supposed to make the program or change the program. If they do, they're not doing what they're bending the rules. Okay? So now all of a sudden I was in charge.
Yeah.
And I could design the programs. So what did I do? I started with the customer. And today they call it need selling. And I would go out into the trade and I'd figure out what the problems were. This customer needed to run a promotion. They needed a special. All right. Or there were products in the marketplace that were too expensive or the quality wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
So now I could design a program for them. And I would start with the customer. I'd say, okay, what if you're having trouble getting this product at the price that's right and that, you get a good return on. What if we had a product that gave you the proper return that would sell and would be great and look like this?
Right.
And you started with the customer. It's called need selling.
Right.
And there's nothing more effective than need selling.
Wow.
Because the customer, like one guy said to me, hey, Angelo, this was so funny. Because I started this pitch with the guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you're doing everything for us. It's all for us. And I said, no, it's not all for you. I mean, it's all for you, but it's because if I started here and say, buy this because it's good for me, my wife and 4 kids, they need clothes, my kids need shoes, get out of here. Get out of here, Age. I don't, I got my troubles, right? So I start off with, we got a product that's going to make your life better, that's going to save you money, give you a higher return, and it's going to sell better. Mm-hmm. Now, the more you buy of it, the better it is for me. Mm-hmm. But the focus should always, this is a you world, by the way. Mm-hmm. You know how we always say it's a we world?
Yeah.
That's baloney. Mm. We should say, hey, we work our butts off,
Yeah.
No. I was out on Saturday playing golf. That wasn't working. It wasn't we, okay? You start with you, the customer.
Right.
This is what's best for you. You start with your employees. This is what's best for you.
Right.
And then if you do that to the best of your ability, then it's good for me.
Right.
But this is really a you world and not a we world or a me world.
Right.
You start with your customers' needs and your wants and whatever.
So let's take a couple of minutes to transition into some of your leadership philosophies. I know that, you're writing a book. Tell people the title of the book that's coming out.
Entrepreneurial Leadership, a Practical Guide to Generating New Business.
Perfect. So leadership is something that, is something that you love. It's something that you've written about. It's something that we've extensively talked about. And I believe that a good leader gets the best out of people. They're in situations. You've taught me a lot of things. One of the lessons that you taught me that has stayed with me was, it could be the most difficult situation that you're in, but you go into your office and you cry, you close the door and you sigh. But when you're out in front of your people, you're always giving your best foot forward. You're not letting them see you sweat. There's a lot of leadership things that you taught me that, have guided me. And I was wondering if you could share, some of your favorite philosophies that help you when you deal with people, when you're trying to get the best out of people, when you're in a leadership role and you're taking over, whether it's a turnaround or seeing something grow. What is it about leadership? What is it about being a likable leader that has been just one of the most valuable assets to you?
Well, the most important thing about leadership, I had this conversation with several of my friends, some very sharp people. Mm. If you want to talk about prophets, philosophers, mm-hmm. you say, what was the most important thing they did? If I said to you, pick one, who do you, what prophet do you admire? Mm-hmm. Name them, pick somebody.
Like a philosopher?
I don't care, Gandhi or Martin Luther King or...
I would say someone who I really, really appreciate was Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah. Martin Luther King
Without
Jr.
a doubt. Yeah.
Now, what's the most important thing that Martin Luther King Jr. did?
That's a very interesting question. I would say that he got a large group of people to believe in a truth that they may not have seen before.
That's an outcome.
That's an outcome. Okay.
Right?
Yeah, that's an outcome.
What's the most important thing you do? Now, some people lead by example. People talk about lead by example.
Spoke up against something that
they threw him in jail. He sacrificed along with people. No. What's the most important thing you did?
What do you think?
Well, you hit on it, but you didn't do it all. Okay.
Yeah.
The most important thing that Martin Luther King did is he had a message, a common purpose. What was it?
That we're equal.
Yeah, I have a dream. I have a dream that someday, right, my children and everybody will be the same.
Yeah.
That's what he did. It was his message. Okay? In life, there's two things going on.
Yeah.
It's doing the right thing and doing things right.
Yeah.
So the message is doing the right thing. Then the way he did it, which you talked about, is doing things right. Because the message is really important, but then you have to do it right. You have to lead by example. He got beaten with his people. He ended up in jail with his people. He ended up dying with his people because of his people. But what do we remember? His message that someday everybody will be equal. Okay? So as a leader, my important, and if you think about this is so simple, really. It's really not complicated.
Yeah.
The general says that the worst condition I have is when my troops are scattered. If my troops are all going in the wrong direction, that is not a problem because I call the person in the rear and I say reverse, and they're going in the right direction. When they're scattered all over the place, I got to get them together. So as a leader, the most important thing every leader does or any leader does is to establish a common purpose. What are we doing? What is our purpose here?
Man, yeah, go ahead. I'm just thinking as you're talking, it's really hitting me. But go ahead, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, it's like our conversation about they want to hold an event for entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
What's the purpose?
Right.
What's the purpose of the event? If I'm selling you a product, why is this good for you? Not why is it good for me? Why is this good for you?
Yeah, I mean, what I was thinking about just now, which hit me, was the idea that, long after someone like Martin Luther King Jr. passed, his message
still
lives. It was so emblazoned in our memories and our minds that became kind of the leading charge. That as a leader, we have to say, what's the message that we're carrying? Why do we do what we do? What's the vision? Because that leads, even if you're not in the room. If you only do what I say when I'm in the room, then is that really leading?
That's supervision.
That's supervision.
There's a difference, huge. That's me sitting there on top of you and you're doing it because I'm watching you.
Right.
Leadership is you're doing it because you want to.
Right.
Because you buy into my message. But but there's the other part of that message that's so important too. Is that Martin Luther King's message was followed up by the way he lived and the way he practiced. So he wasn't just talking, because talk is cheap.
Right.
Okay. This wonderful philosopher said, I can't hear you because your actions are too loud. Right. So Martin Luther King, yes, he started with this wonderful message.
Yeah.
But you believed him because of the way he lived and what he did.
Right.
That because it's credibility is what credibility is expertise and trust.
Say it again. Say it again.
Credibility is expertise and trust. And so he had the expertise because when he spoke, you loved his message and he was good at presenting it. And then you trusted him because he did what he said and he delivered.
Credibility is expertise and trust. I mean, that's
Big
it.
deal.
Because if you're a leader and you're telling everyone you have to work hard and we've got to do this and do that, but no one's seeing you put in that effort, does that make you want to work as hard for that person?
No, because they have to be believed. No, we had this conversation many times. I told you the story about the book. This guy, I didn't actually read it, but he was on Larry King Live. Okay. It was on salesmanship, but it works for leadership. It's the same thing. Okay?
Tell me about it.
And he said to Larry King, we did a study to find out what one characteristic it was that, led people to be the successful salespeople. Mm-hmm. What is the one single characteristic? What is one single thing that makes salespeople successful? Mm-hmm. And you would say, I know what Larry King said.
I would say, man, the one thing, gosh, it's so
that
many.
Makes you successful as a salesperson. I know because you told me a long time ago. Yeah. Your altitude is determined by your attitude.
Right, attitude.
Correct?
Sure.
Your altitude, you and Bert, your altitude is determined by your attitude.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
And I said no.
Right.
And what if I said to you that 80% of all the sales are made on the third call? Okay. And only 20% of the salespeople make the third call. So that 20% of all the salespeople sell 80% of all the products or services or goods or whatever.
Because they're making the third call and no one else is.
So what's the number one factor?
Persistency.
Determination, right? Absolutely not.
No?
No. And I can tell you why that doesn't work. Yeah. Okay? Because if what you're selling isn't any good, the more determined you are, that's called pressure.
No one likes to be pressured when they're sold to, for sure.
Well, for example, there's one religion that's been after me to change my religion since I was 17 years old. They chased one day when I was a kid, they chased me up the steps of the church trying to hand me a pamphlet.
Yeah.
Now, this is many years later, and I've never joined that religion. And
Right.
you can never find people more determined. You can never find people more persistent. People in my church would never do that to you.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I didn't like their message.
Hmm.
And the harder they push me, the worse the bigger turnoff.
Interesting.
Okay?
Yeah.
So they did a study. They took 300 people
Yeah.
from a national organization, and they just separated them based on performance.
Yeah.
So 150 of the best performers, 150 of the worst.
Hmm.
And they tried to figure out what the difference was. And one simple thing was credibility. Okay? When the people on the bottom said, this bottle of soft drink is worth $1, they thought maybe there was something wrong with it. When the people on the top half said it was $1, they said, wow, that's a value. Because they were credible. They knew what they were talking about, and they were trustworthy.
They believed them. They believed what they were saying.
Credibility. A simple definition is believability.
Yeah.
The best definition I've ever seen is expertise and trust.
Yeah.
Because people that are credible have expertise, and they're trustworthy. Martin Luther King had expertise, and he was trustworthy. All right.
Yeah.
So, for example, like if I want to go. And if I'm building something,
Yeah.
okay, and I go to Lowe's, I don't look for a guy with a suit and tie on.
Right. Right.
Because he might be a wonderful talker, but does he know how to square something up? Does he know level and plumb?
Yeah.
Does he know how to get around that corner? I go look for a guy that looks like he's been working with wood all his life.
Right. Right.
Because he's got credibility.
Right. And that goes to something.
And by the way, it's situational. It's situational.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a big deal.
It's something that you've always shared with me is important that, if you're going to teach me something, if you're going to do something, lead, sell, why should I believe you? If you're going to tell me about this, why should I believe you? And that's the credibility. If you have the credibility, then there's a trust there. But I think something that you said kind of in subtext, which was important, is if you have expertise or if you have credibility or believability, people also need to know that, right? Like I can know everything in the world, but if I don't know that you know that, whether you're, and a great example is like if you're very, learned in a subject, you can put out a blog, you can put out a podcast, you can teach a class, you can do something to show that credibility exists through your actions. Because there's a lot of people you meet who tell you, I know everything about this, but they've got nothing to prove that they actually do. So even if they might, their credibility doesn't have credibility.
Well, one of the things in life is you really have to do something to be credible. See, you really don't learn something until you apply it.
Right.
But I was telling you earlier, I had worked my way up and I actually bought the company when I was 39 years old. Yeah. I think about it now. I say, wow, 39 years old. I didn't know a heck of a lot at 39, to be honest. And I remember the company was up for sale, and I remember telling people I want to buy this company. It was several $1 million, and my wife and I in total we had $5,000 in the bank. And then we spent that all trying to buy the company. So when we bought it, we had $232 in the checking account, and all our credit cards were overdrawn. And I remember an executive at the company that I worked for, that I was actually buying her from. He sat me down. He said, why do you want to buy this company? We're in the middle of one of the worst recessions in years. And that doesn't make any sense. I said, well, everything that can be done to a human being in business has been done to me. And we've overcome every one of them. So I don't see why we won't. He said, well, you're either crazy or you're a genius. I said, I don't think I'm either one of them. I think I just have been through it and I've been able to make it work. So then my wife told her sister-in-law, her sister, and she said, oh, he's a bull. Okay. And she told her girlfriend, oh, yeah, he talks a lot. Okay. So 11 months later, we bought the company. And I told you the hardships and everything else, but we made it work.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, the same people that said I was full of baloney, crazy, or bull, whatever, started telling me what a genius I was. Now, I didn't listen to them the first time, so I sure wasn't going to listen then, which is great because I never got King disease. That's from people telling you everything you want to hear.
What's King's? Tell more about King's disease. You always tell me about King's disease.
Because what happened after I bought the company, I found out that people wouldn't talk to me till I had a cup of coffee. People wouldn't talk to me unless they thought I was in a good mood. People wouldn't tell me bad news. People wanted to agree with me because they thought that made me feel good. And that's how you get King disease. Because you have complete control of your company. Yeah. And nobody disagrees with you. But I never got King disease because I never believed them, because I didn't believe them when they said I was nuts. So why would I say, okay? And then I surrounded myself with people that would actually disagree with me. But we did it nicely. If you want to yell and scream, you close the door and nobody else is in the room, but we don't yell and scream up front of other people, that kind of thing. Right. And so I fortunately never got King's disease. Okay. But I remember saying to my mentor, I never changed. I'm the same guy as I was. Thank God. I mean, a lot of people change, I said, I'm the same guy I always was. So before they wouldn't believe me. Now they believe me. It's, what was wrong with me before? Why didn't they listen before? He says, because, Ange, you had potential then. Now you have credibility because you did it. So, you got to do something for people to believe in you, and that's why I keep on saying to you, you found your niche, You're talking about something that you're an expert on. You picked yourself out of tough circumstances. You got through school. You had great marks. You got this great business you're doing. You go out and people pay you. I mean, I watch your presentations. They're fantastic. I wish I could speak that good. Thanks. And now you have credibility. People are willing to listen to you. Right. Right. Before you had potential.
Right. That's such an important idea. I mean, you have the potential, but they listen to you. You may not change. You may not be saying anything necessarily differently, but you got the credibility when you do something.
Why does everybody talk about Steve Jobs and say, wow, okay? Yeah. Because he was a nice guy. Most people say he wasn't very nice. Right. They like the products he came up with. They think, wow, where did he get that iPod? You know what? Right. That was no big deal. It was a fancy Walkman. There's nothing new under the sun. He just refined the Walkman. As a matter of fact, in his movie, they show that he wasn't happy with the Walkman. So he just fixed the bugs in the Walkman and come out with a better looking version. All right. Why do people like Elon Musk? Because he's a nice guy? No, I don't know. Maybe he is, but that's not why. Right. That Tesla car is something else. And how about the rocket ship that he sends up and gets the $50 million or $100 million bonus from the government? Yeah. Just signed a $5 billion contract.
He's got a lot he's developing. Great entrepreneur. I recommend people look at what Elon Musk is doing. It's very impressive. Yeah.
They turned that technology over to everybody because he really cares about the environment. It's unbelievable.
Here's what we do. Yeah, it was brilliant. It's brilliant.
But we don't like them because they're nice people. We don't like them because they're nice guys or whatever. Maybe more people like Bill Gates now because of his foundation. Yeah, we like that. But Bill Gates had to create Microsoft before he did. Right. Like I said, I really never wanted to sell soft drinks, Yeah. But I couldn't have done our scholarship foundation if we hadn't sold soft drinks. Right. Because we earned the money to be able to help people with our scholarship. So. Right. But you got to do something to get the credibility. Man. It's expertise and trust. It's a big deal.
Expertise and trust, man. Well, listen, Ange, thank you. I can't think of a better way to close out what has just been. Every time I talk to you, I learn something new. I get reinforced on something that's special, and it's just an honor for me to be able to share this with the great people that take the time to invest in themselves and listen to the Art of Likability. And you just shared some amazing ideas for developing as a person, a salesperson, an entrepreneur, a leader. These things literally can apply to so many aspects of your life. So thank you so much for sharing that. Anything you want to leave with before we say peace out?
No, it was my pleasure.
Thank you. Well, listen, look out.
And then it's my pleasure, and it's okay that the dinner was cold. It really wasn't cold.
It was lukewarm.
It was lukewarm.
I had a speaking engagement today, and I was late to my dinner with my mentor because I was talking to other people mentoring. That's called irony. So
I said, you're too much like me, because I would have done the same thing.
And that's who I learned from.
So anyway.
So, Ange, thank you so much, man. This was an amazing opportunity to connect with you. Look out for his book when it comes out in 2015, Entrepreneurial Leadership. And
a practical guide
to
generating new business.
Practical guide to generating new business. Angelo Mastrangelo, it rhymes because he's just a boss like that, and that's how he gets down. His name rhymes. So listen, thank you so much for listening to Art of Likability. Let us know. We love experimenting with this long form content. You know, obviously a lot of our episodes are more short form, under 10 minutes. But I'm starting to do these interviews because I want to really go deep with some of the great minds that I'm lucky enough to be connected to. So let me know what you think. Send me an email at info@artoflikability.com. That's info@artoflikability.com. I've been getting amazing tweets and emails and Facebook messages from people. Keep sending them. I love interacting with you. I'm Arel Moody, AREL MOODIE. I'm the only Arel Moody on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you can't find me, you are not looking. It's very, very simple. All right. Send me a message. Let me know what you thought about this. Apply some of these ideas. Are there some things that you've applied and you're seeing amazing results with? I want to know. If you like this, go ahead and give it a 5-star rating. Make sure to subscribe so when our podcasts come out, you get all of them fresh and hot right out the oven onto your device. And I look forward to giving you our next podcast where we will hopefully we will 100% definitely increase your likability. Increase likability increases your relationships with people. Increase relationships with people leads to happiness and success. And if you do not want happiness and success, you are listening to the wrong podcast. Sending you a big old high five. Arel Moody here signing out. You are awesome.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Likability. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast for more awesome info on how you can improve your likability and improve your life. Until next time.